Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It happened in our high-rise apartment on a rainy Thursday evening in Seattle. The city lights blurred behind the glass, and the air inside our place felt tighter than usual, like the walls were listening. Amanda slammed the door open with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. "Well," she announced, heels clicking across the polished wood floor. "Looks like I'll be sitting on the executive floor now. I'm officially promoted. Senior Vice President." She dropped her designer bag on the kitchen island like it was a trophy. Her voice, loud, triumphant, and laced with something else, something sharper. "That's amazing," I said, glancing up from my laptop on the couch. "Congratulations, Amanda." She tilted her head, smiling wider. "You can say it with more excitement, you know. It's not every day your wife becomes your superior." I blinked, confused. "Superior?" She walked over, poured herself a glass of wine. "Well, not literally. But status-wise? Yeah, Ethan. You gotta admit, you've kinda plateaued." "Plateaued?" I stood up, half laughing. "Just a few weeks ago, you were crying over job rejection emails and leaning on me to pay rent. What changed?" Amanda turned, holding her glass with 2 fingers like she was posing for a magazine. "What changed is that I didn't stay small, Ethan. I moved up. That's what people like me do." I stepped closer. "People like you?" "Yes. Driven. Strategic. Focused on more than mediocrity." That one landed. "So I'm mediocre now?" I asked, steady but clipped. "If the shoe fits." The air crackled between us, cold and brittle. I took a breath, held it, then exhaled slowly. "You're standing in the home we built together, Amanda. This mediocre salary paid your tuition, covered your jobless summer. But sure, remind me what I bring to the table." She shrugged. "Security, I guess. But I'm not sure I need that anymore." Something in my chest twisted. I watched her swirl the wine in her glass like it was some ritual, and I felt myself shrinking, right there in my own home. "You're serious?" I asked. "You get one title bump, and suddenly I'm beneath you?" She smiled again, small, smug, surgical. "Let's not make this dramatic." "No, Amanda, let's make it as dramatic as you just did." She took a sip. "Don't be insecure, Ethan. Don't be arrogant." Her eyes flashed, and for a second, the mask slipped. "You could have had more too, you know. If you weren't so content. Men like you get comfortable. That's your real downfall." "Men like me." I stepped in close. "Men like me held your hand through every rejection. Took on extra hours when you didn't believe in yourself. This isn't about ambition. It's about respect. And you just trampled it." We stood inches apart, but it felt like miles. Her jaw tightened. Mine did too. Neither of us moved. A slow silence settled between us. Long enough for the fridge to hum, for the storm outside to pick up. The modern kitchen around us, once filled with shared laughter and rushed breakfasts, now felt like a battleground. I broke the silence. "I hope the view from the top's worth what you're tearing down." Amanda didn't flinch, just raised her glass again and walked off toward the bedroom like the scene hadn't even cracked her surface. I stood there for a while, still in my work clothes, holding nothing but the weight of her words. That was the night I realized my marriage wasn't crumbling. It had already crumbled. I just now felt the dust. It started subtly. A few late nights here and there. A text saying, "Running behind, don't wait up." At first, I didn't question it. Amanda had just landed a big promotion. Long hours came with the territory. But then it became a pattern. Every night, home after midnight. No explanation beyond. Meetings ran long. Or client drinks. Always vague. Always rushed. One night, I stayed up. Couldn't sleep. The glow of the oven clock read 12:47 a.m. when I heard the elevator stop on our floor. Her heels echoed down the hallway like a countdown. The door opened. "Hey," she said breathlessly, stepping inside and brushing damp hair from her forehead. "Sorry, we had to schmooze some clients. Wine tastings. Long story." She leaned down to kiss my cheek. That's when I smelled it. Not her perfume, something else. Sharper. Masculine. Musky. I froze mid-breath. That scent didn't belong in our apartment. Amanda pulled back, smiling like nothing was off. "Why are you still up?" "I couldn't sleep," I said. My voice stayed calm, but my thoughts raced. "You smell different." She laughed lightly, tossing her purse onto the counter. "Probably because I've been around men all night. Everyone in my department wears cologne like they're competing in a scent contest." I stood and walked toward her. "It's not just cologne. It's on you. She rolled her eyes and started unbuttoning her blazer. Relax, Ethan. I've been in a crowded bar for 3 hours. If anything rubbed off, it's secondhand. You didn't say it was a bar. She paused for half a second too long, then kept moving. Downtown. Crescent Lounge. Ever heard of it? No, I said. Didn't even know you had a client dinner tonight. She shrugged. It came up last minute. This job's like that. It's not a 9 to 5 anymore. I crossed my arms. Watching her peel off her heels and line them neatly by the door like this was just another ordinary evening. I get that you're busy, I said, but I'm not sure what's worse, what you're not telling me, or how easily you expect me not to notice. Amanda turned, her expression sharpening. You think I'm hiding something? She asked, raising her brow. I think you're working late every night, coming home with mystery scents and fuzzy stories, I replied. Forgive me if my radar's on. She laughed again, but there was no humor in it. You're jealous. No, I said calmly. I'm observant. She walked past me, heading down the hall toward the bedroom. You're paranoid, and you're starting to sound insecure. And you're starting to sound rehearsed, I said quietly, but loud enough for her to hear. Her steps slowed. She looked back at me. For a moment, there was something flickering in her eyes. But then, just as quickly, it vanished. I'm going to bed, she said. You should too. The door shut behind her with a soft click. But it might as well have been a wall being built. I stood there alone in the kitchen, staring at the wine glass she hadn't touched. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I feared what she might be doing, but because I feared I already knew. A week later, I was fixing the sink when Amanda waltzed in, heels in hand, humming to herself. She tossed her clutch on the entryway table and moved straight for the fridge. We have that work party Friday, she said casually, grabbing a bottled water. Corporate thing. It's employees only, just FYI. I straightened, wiping my hands on a towel. A party. Yeah. Company-wide celebration. They booked out that rooftop lounge, Vertigo, I think it's called. Kind of a big deal, but boring if you're not in the industry. I raised an eyebrow. So no spouses? Nope. She didn't look at me when she said it. Just twisted the bottle cap and took a long sip. I watched her walk past me into the bedroom without another word. No invite. No offer. Just a closed door. That should have been the end of it. But Friday night came, and something in me refused to stay home. It wasn't about spying. It wasn't even about jealousy. It was about clarity. And maybe, if I'm being honest, a little dignity. By 9:30 p.m. I was downtown. The city buzzed with weekend energy, but I moved through it on instinct, like I'd been here 100 times before. Vertigo sat high above the skyline, all glass and ego, glowing like a beacon. At the elevator, the hostess raised an eyebrow. Guest list. I'm Amanda Carter's husband, I said smoothly. She works under Radcliffe in finance. I'm just here to drop something off. She hesitated, then waved me through. The elevator doors slid shut with a soft chime, carrying me up. The rooftop bar opened like a scene from a magazine. Soft music, string lights, a skyline stretching across the windows like a painting. People laughed, drank, networked in little clusters of ambition. And then I saw her, Amanda, standing near the balcony, laughing with a group of sharply dressed men. Her posture was perfect, her smile polished. She didn't look like my wife. She looked like a version of her I didn't know anymore. When her eyes met mine across the room, the blood drained from her face. She broke from the group fast, heels clicking with purpose. What the hell are you doing here? She hissed, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward a side hallway. Nice to see you too, I said calmly. Ethan, this is not okay. This is a professional event. You showing up like this makes me look bad. I glanced back at the party. So it's really that embarrassing? That your husband wanted to celebrate your promotion with you? You weren't invited. No, I was dismissed, I said, locking eyes with her. There's a difference. Her jaw clenched. This isn't about us. It feels like it is. She folded her arms, eyes scanning the crowd like she expected someone to be watching. You've made your point. Can you go now? No, I said simply. I'm staying. She blinked. Ethan, I'm not here to cause a scene, Amanda. I just want to see what kind of celebration needs to be hidden from a spouse. Her shoulders stiffened. You're being ridiculous. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm finally done pretending that everything's fine. For a few seconds, we just stood there, neither of us moving. Around us, the party pulsed on, voices and music like distant waves. Then something shifted in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, just discomfort. She sighed, exasperated. Fine, do what you want. And she turned, heels echoing as she walked back into the crowd, smile already back in place like a mask slipped on perfectly. I watched her melt into the room like she belonged there more than she ever had at home. And I stayed, leaning against the wall, letting the truth settle. She didn't just not want me there. She needed me gone. While Amanda laughed by the bar, holding court like a queen with her court of suits, I slipped away. Vertigo's main level was loud and glittering, but the side hallways were dim, lined with closed office doors. I walked slowly, quietly, my shoes muted against the dark tile. No one stopped me. No one noticed. At the far end, one door was slightly ajar. The nameplate read, M. Radcliffe, Executive Director. I knocked once. Come in. A voice called, smooth and composed. I stepped in and shut the door behind me. Mr. Radcliffe looked up from a stack of folders, clearly not expecting me. Early 40s, neatly trimmed beard, steel gray suit, a drink in his hand. He didn't smile. You're Ethan Carter, I said. Amanda's husband. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Didn't expect visitors tonight. I imagine you didn't, I replied, stepping forward, keeping my tone casual. I won't take much of your time. Just needed to clear up something that's been bothering me. He leaned back in his chair. Go on. I studied him closely. I noticed Amanda's been working late. Almost every night. Long hours, closed-door meetings, new perfume. And then there's the cologne I caught on her. Sharp. Musky. Radcliffe raised his brows. Is this a personal matter? I'm asking if it's your cologne. He didn't blink. Instead, he chuckled softly and gestured toward a crystal decanter near his elbow. That's what this is about. Amanda and I work closely, yes. Long hours. But whatever you're imagining, I assure you, it's not that. You can understand why I might think otherwise. I do. He took a sip of his drink. But you're wrong. And frankly, if I were you, I'd be asking her those questions. Not me. There was no defensiveness in his tone. No flinching. If anything, he looked calm. Too calm. So nothing's going on? I asked again. He set his glass down and looked me straight in the eye. Nothing inappropriate, no? Amanda's talented, driven, and ambitious, but if you're worried about loyalty, I'd suggest watching more closely. Just not in my direction. I frowned. That sounds like advice. It is. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. Look, Ethan, I've been in this business 20 years. I've seen how things work. You think she's hiding something? Hire someone who knows how to find out. I blinked. Excuse me. He reached into a drawer and slid a business card across the desk. Private investigator. Quiet, reliable. Off the books. You're suggesting I investigate my wife? I'm suggesting you get the truth before you start tearing your life apart based on assumptions. His gaze was steady, unreadable. I stared at the card. Just a name, Delgado Investigations, and a number. No logo. No address. You keep these handy? I asked. He smiled faintly. I've had reasons before. There was a knock at the door, quick and nervous. Amanda. She peeked in, saw me, and hesitated. Everything okay in here? Radcliffe didn't move. Just getting to know your husband. Amanda forced a small laugh. Well, he's a little impulsive sometimes. I'm learning, Radcliffe said coolly. I turned to her. You didn't tell me he recommends private investigators. Her eyes narrowed, and for a second, the mask slipped again. But then it was back. Cool, collected Amanda. Can we go now? I pocketed the card, nodded politely to Radcliffe, and followed her out. She didn't say a word until we were back by the elevator. That was completely out of line, she snapped. I just wanted answers. By interrogating my boss. I asked a question. He gave a card. She scoffed. And you took it. I took clarity, I said quietly. Because you're not giving it to me. The elevator doors opened. We stepped in, side by side, not touching, not speaking. Between us, the silence roared louder than the music upstairs. Delgado looked like a man who hadn't blinked in a decade. Grizzled. 50s. Wore a leather jacket 2 sizes too big and carried a notebook instead of a phone. When I met him at a diner in Capitol Hill, he ordered black coffee and didn't touch it once. So, he said, eyes narrowing behind thick brows. You want me to follow your wife? I nodded. Her name's Amanda Carter. Works at a financial firm downtown, big building near Westlake. Lately, She's been acting off. Long nights. Short answers. Delgado leaned back. You think she's stepping out? I don't know what to think, I said. But something's wrong. I need the truth. No drama. No confrontation. Just facts. He tapped his pen slowly against the table. Discreet. Completely. He flipped open a notepad. Car. Black Audi. Plates ending in 5YJ. Routine. Leaves around 7:30. Comes home after midnight most nights. He scribbled. Does she know she's being watched? She will if you're bad at your job. He gave a small smirk at that. I'm not. We finalized the payment in cash, Delgado's request, and he told me he'd start that night. The waiting began. Day 1, nothing. She left work late, stopped for groceries, and came home alone. Day 2, the same. She grabbed dinner from a poke bowl place on Pine Street. Ate in her car for 20 minutes. Drove home. No detours. By day 4, I was pacing the living room when Delgado called. Your wife's clean. I blinked. What? She works. She eats. She drives home. No strange stops. No secret apartments. No motel detours. I even followed her lunch breaks. Unless she's a magician, she's not hiding an affair. That doesn't make sense. It rarely does, Delgado said. But if she's doing something shady, she's better at hiding it than most. I stared out the window, watching the gray drizzle streak down the glass. No one's that clean, I muttered. She is. He hung up. That night, Amanda came home at 12:42. Same practice smile. Same calm voice. Sorry, she said, kicking off her heels. We had a last-minute meeting with a Japanese firm. Time zones, you know. I didn't respond. Just watched her open the fridge, pull out leftover risotto, and heat it like it was any other night. She looked over her shoulder. You okay? Fine. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't. She walked over, kissed the top of my head. Try not to overthink everything, Ethan. And just like that, she floated toward the bedroom, humming some nameless tune like nothing was wrong. But everything was. The problem wasn't that Amanda was lying. It was that she was lying well. The snow had been falling hard since late afternoon. Thick, wet flakes plastered against the windows, muting the sounds of the city outside. Around 8:40 p.m., the lights in our apartment flickered once, then went out entirely. I lit 2 candles and settled onto the couch, wrapped in a throw blanket, letting the dim glow cast long shadows across the walls. The silence felt deeper than usual. No hum from the fridge. No heating vents. Just the wind outside and the occasional crack of ice shifting on the roof. Amanda wasn't home yet. At 9:26 p.m., the front door opened. She stepped in fast, cheeks flushed from the cold, eyes wide with excitement. Her voice was softer than I'd heard in weeks. Power's out here too? Yeah, I said, surprised by how warm she sounded. Couple blocks are down. She shook off the snow, boots stomping against the mat. It's kind of romantic, right? No lights, no distractions. I looked at her, studying her face in the candlelight. She wasn't wearing her usual guarded expression. She looked open, like the Amanda I used to know. I guess, I replied. She moved toward me and, without waiting, curled up beside me on the couch. Her hand slipped into mine. It felt strange, like touching something I'd already mourned. For a few minutes, we just sat there, listening to the wind against the glass. Then she looked up at me. You ever think we got too far away from each other? I hesitated. Lately, yeah. She nodded once. Me too. Her breath warmed my neck. Her lips found mine. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was familiar. In the quiet dark, stripped of everything artificial, we moved back towards something that once felt like home. Later, wrapped in the blanket, her body pressed close. I felt the change. She shifted, leaned into my ear, and whispered, Funny, you didn't notice any difference. I blinked. What? The voice continued, cooler now. Sharper. Your wife's with her lover right now. My whole body tensed. I shot upright, grabbed the flashlight from the coffee table, and flicked it on. She was already sitting up, a strange, satisfied look on her face. But it wasn't Amanda. Rachel. I croaked. Amanda's twin. Identical in every visible way, but colder. Eyes harder. Jaw more angular in the way only close family would catch. She smiled. Took you long enough. My heart pounded. What the hell is this? She stood slowly, pulled a small manila envelope from her coat pocket, and tossed it onto the coffee table. You want proof? It's all there. Photos. Timestamps. Hotel receipts. Amanda's been meeting someone twice a week for over a month. I couldn't breathe. I reached for the envelope with shaking hands, pulling out the contents in disbelief. Blurry shots of Amanda walking into a boutique hotel. The same coat. The same bag. Always with a man, tall, sharp-dressed, face turned just enough to be unclear. I've been following her, Rachel said, voice calm. Not for you. For me. I looked up, confused. Why would you? She stole something from me, she said, cutting me off. Something that wrecked my life. Before I could ask more, the front door opened again. Amanda stepped in, brushing snow from her jacket. She froze mid-step. The room was dim, but bright enough now with the flashlight casting up toward the ceiling. Her eyes moved from me, to Rachel, to the open envelope on the table. She didn't speak, didn't blink, just stood there, jaw slack, throat working like she was swallowing glass. Rachel didn't flinch. Hello, sister. Amanda's lips parted. You didn't. Oh, I did, Rachel said, smiling. I thought Ethan deserved to meet the real version of you. But clearly, I overestimated him. Amanda's voice cracked. How could you? How could you? Rachel snapped. You ruined my career. You made me the villain. Also, you could play some office princess fantasy. I stood slowly, holding the envelope like it might collapse in my hands. Amanda, is it true? She didn't answer. She couldn't. The silence was her confession. Rachel brushed past her on her way out. You're welcome, she muttered. The door clicked behind her. Amanda took one step toward me. Ethan, I raised a hand. Don't. She stopped. I stared at the photos again, numbness crawling over every inch of me. You let me think I was crazy, I said softly. You watched me unravel and didn't even blink. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean for, you meant all of it, I said, voice hollow. The snow kept falling outside, a soft hush muffling the world. Inside, I stood there like a man staring at the ashes of a life he didn't realize had already burned down. The rest of that night didn't move in hours. It moved in heartbeats. I sat in the corner of the living room, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. The power didn't come back. The candles melted into small pools of wax. The envelope lay open beside me on the coffee table, its contents untouched since the moment Amanda walked in. She had gone silent after that. Didn't try to plead. Didn't beg. She just slipped into the bedroom and closed the door, like retreating to her side of the battlefield. I heard the faint sounds of her crying once, but they didn't stir anything in me. Not grief, not sympathy, just stillness. Around 3 a.m., I could still feel Rachel's presence like a shadow across the room. Amanda's twin. I hadn't seen her in years. Not since their falling out. She was always the distant one, the sharp one, the truth teller, the one Amanda called reckless whenever her name came up. But tonight, she became something else entirely. An unlikely ally. And even stranger, she told the truth with more clarity than the woman I married ever had. I ran a hand across my face. My skin felt tight, my jaw sore from hours of clenching. There was no more pretending now. No more doubt. The truth was ugly, but it was solid. It had weight. And that weight was strangely comforting. At some point, I rose, poured a glass of water with hands that barely steadied. I stared at my reflection in the kitchen window. A man hollowed out, sure, but not broken. That surprised me, because what I felt wasn't devastation anymore. It was relief. Not the kind you celebrate, but the quiet kind. The kind that comes when the guessing stops. When the second guessing is over. When someone finally stops lying to your face and says, here, look, this is what it is. And Rachel had done that. I still didn't know why, not fully. I didn't know what Amanda had stolen from her, what betrayal had turned one sister into a silent saboteur. But I knew this. Rachel hadn't done it out of spite for me. She'd done it because Amanda had crossed a line long before I ever suspected one existed. And somehow, that made the betrayal cut even deeper. I sat back down as dawn started to gray the sky. Snow still fell, lighter now, soft and slow. The silence in the apartment wasn't sharp anymore. It was clean. Amanda hadn't come out. She must have known there was nothing to say that could undo what had been revealed. I leaned back in the chair, pulled the blanket tighter, and closed my eyes. Not to sleep, but to just breathe. One truth was finally on the table. The rest would come. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was drowning in questions. I just felt cold and clear. If you're enjoying the story, please hit the like button. Morning came with no ceremony. Just pale light sneaking through half-closed blinds, casting thin stripes across the floor. The storm had slowed. The power was still out. I hadn't slept. Amanda came out of the bedroom barefoot, wrapped in one of her old college sweatshirts, the one I bought her before we were even married. She looked smaller than usual, makeup-free, fragile in a way I hadn't seen in years. She walked toward me slowly, clutching a steaming mug of instant coffee. "I made you one," she said gently, setting it on the coffee table beside the untouched envelope. I didn't look at her. "Don't need anything." A pause. Then, carefully, she sat across from me on the edge of the couch. Her voice was soft, rehearsed. "I've been up all night thinking," she said. "I know things spiraled, but we can fix this, if we want to." "We?" I asked, finally looking up at her. "Or you?" She hesitated, then tried again. "I mean, people make mistakes. They get caught up in things. But it doesn't mean they stop loving each other." I tilted my head. "Who made a mistake, Amanda?" She blinked quickly, then took a breath. "You and I both know this marriage hasn't been healthy for a while. You've been distant. Cold. I thought maybe you found comfort elsewhere too. With Rachel." The words landed like ice water. I stared at her in disbelief. "You're serious?" She nodded slowly, eyes glassy. "Look, I'm not mad. I forgive you. We don't have to unravel everything we've built just because we both slipped." I leaned forward, my voice suddenly sharp. "You think I was with Rachel?" She touched my hand, voice trembling. "Ethan, I saw the way you looked at her last night. I could feel the tension." I pulled my hand back like her skin burned. "Rachel exposed you. She handed me proof of your affair. And you think I used her to get revenge?" "I think. You were hurt," she whispered. "And maybe you acted out. It's okay. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to move forward." I let out a low laugh, bitter, empty. "You're incredible." Amanda sat up straighter. "Ethan, I'm trying to save us. We can go to therapy, take a break, reconnect. We don't have to throw away our life over something we both regret." "You're rewriting the story, Amanda," I said coldly. "You always do." "No," she insisted. "I'm offering you a chance. A chance to move on without blaming each other." I stood slowly. The room seemed to shift under me, my voice steadier than I expected. "I'm not interested in chances or spin. You cheated. You lied. Then you let me sit in this apartment and question my sanity while you slipped into hotel lobbies with some nameless guy." She stood too, her voice cracking. I panicked. "I didn't know how to stop." "You didn't want to stop," I snapped. "You wanted both. The clean image, the job, the marriage, and the thrill behind closed doors." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't plan to hurt you." "But you did," I said. "And not just me. You hurt your sister. You stole from her, whatever it was. That's why she showed up last night. You burned her, too." Amanda swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. "I thought you loved me." "I did," I said. "Enough to fight for us when things got hard. Enough to believe you were just overwhelmed, not manipulative." I grabbed my coat off the hook, slipping it on slowly, with care. "Where are you going?" she asked, panic seeping into her voice. "To file for divorce." Amanda's breath caught. "No. Ethan, please. We can fix this. We can fix everything." I turned at the door, met her eyes one last time. "You broke it. Now you can live with the pieces." And with that, I stepped out into the cold morning air. Behind me, I heard her sob, low, trembling, but I didn't stop. Not this time. Monday morning, the world was all gray drizzle and silent phone screens. I sat in a quiet downtown office overlooking the sound, the sky just as tired as I felt. Across from me sat Margaret Hess, divorce attorney, mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She skimmed the documents Rachel had helped me compile, flipping through the photos, the timestamps, the notes I'd scribbled down like battle plans. Her face stayed unreadable. When she finally looked up, she folded her hands and said, "You could scorch the earth if you want to." "I don't want to," I replied. Margaret tilted her head. "You sure?" "Because between the affair and the potential fraud with Rachel's claims, we could make this a very loud, very ugly split. The kind judges remember." I exhaled slowly. "That's not who I want to be. I don't need revenge. I just want it done." She studied me a moment longer, then gave a small nod. "Then here's what I recommend. 50-50 division, no spousal support, sealed proceedings. Fast, clean, and quiet." "And the photos?" She tapped the manila folder. We don't use them. Amanda's not contesting. If you drag her through this, she'll twist everything. Rachel's deception, your refusal to forgive, the way you found out. Trust me, it won't come out clean. I leaned back in the chair. Feels like she still wins. No, Margaret said evenly. She walks away with half, but not your piece. That, you keep. I nodded, slowly. Draft it. 2 weeks later, we met in a sterile mediation room with a round table, 2 pens, and no eye contact. Amanda looked worn, but still elegant in that effortless way she always carried. She didn't speak much, just signed where instructed, her hands trembling once, maybe twice. I didn't say a word until the final paper passed to me. As I reached for the pen, she whispered, I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. I glanced up at her, just briefly. You never thought I'd stop waiting for you to change. A tear rolled down her cheek, but I didn't flinch. I signed, closed the folder, and stood. Amanda whispered, Ethan, I'm sorry. I looked her in the eye and spoke calmly. I know, but now it's too late. Outside the office, the world looked the same, but inside me, something had shifted. It wasn't relief, exactly. It was stillness. The storm was over. There was nothing left to prove, nothing left to chase. The story she tried to twist was hers to live with now. Mine was about starting over, without needing to make noise doing it. 3 days after the papers were signed, I agreed to meet Rachel at a small cafe tucked between a bookstore and a florist in Capitol Hill. It wasn't far from my new apartment, just far enough from the past. She was already there when I arrived. Black coffee, dark sweater, eyes fixed on the window like she was watching something that had already left. I sat across from her in silence. She didn't speak right away. Finally, I said, You going to open with your welcome? Rachel's mouth twitched. You think I did this for you? I think you enjoyed it, I muttered, glancing toward the counter. You could have told me straight. Could have skipped the stunt. She looked down at her coffee. And you would have believed me? Coming from the sister Amanda painted as the unstable one? I said nothing. Rachel sighed, leaned back. She stole something from me, Ethan. What? My job, she said simply. Last spring, I applied for a remote position out of Denver. Interviewed over video. 2 weeks later, I got a rejection email. Turns out, Amanda used my resume. Posed as me. My stomach sank. What? She knew I'd never forgive her, but she did it anyway. Thought she could land it, change her life overnight. Which she did. I blinked, stunned. She impersonated you? Rachel nodded. Same degree. Same voice. She even used my email, forwarded the offer to herself, deleted the trail. I only found out when a recruiter followed up months later, confused about our last conversation. I shook my head. She never said a word. She never does, Rachel said. She builds her world on silence and polish. But this time, I wasn't going to be quiet. I looked down at my hands, unsure what I was even feeling. So you used me to ruin her. I exposed her, Rachel said. You did the rest. There was no venom in her voice, just a tired sort of finality. She stirred her coffee absently. I'm not proud of how I told you, but she needed to fall. And I figured, if anyone deserved to know the truth, it was the man sleeping beside her. I studied her face, so much like Amanda's, and yet, not at all. Are you okay? I asked, surprising myself. Rachel gave a faint smile. Better than I was. Still looking for work. Still pissed. But, at least I'm not holding my breath anymore. I nodded. We sat in silence for a while, 2 people connected by the wreckage of someone else's storm. Finally, I stood. Thanks for meeting me. She nodded. Take care of yourself, Ethan. As I stepped out into the cold afternoon air, I realized something. The betrayal ran deeper than I ever guessed. But so did the truth. The following week, I took the elevator back up to the glass tower on Westlake, the same building where all of this had started unraveling. I hadn't planned to come. I didn't know anyone hear anything. But there was one thread still hanging loose, and I needed to tie it off. Radcliffe's assistant recognized me instantly and gave a cautious nod before buzzing me in. He looked up as I entered. Same calm posture, same tailored suit. Only this time, there was no tension between us. I figured I'd see you again, he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. I wanted to say, sorry, for barging into your office like that during the party. He gave a slow nod. I've been called worse. I let out a dry breath of a laugh. I didn't know what I was looking for that night. I thought you were the problem. And now, I looked him square in the eye. Now I know you were the warning. He didn't smile, but something in his expression softened. Well, he said, folding his hands, I assume you've heard. Amanda's no longer with the company. I heard. She crossed a line. Multiple, actually. And when the audit came through, he trailed off. Let's just say trust is expensive around here. I'm sorry it came to that. No, you're not, he said bluntly, but without malice. I let the silence settle for a beat, then stood. Thanks for being honest with me. Back then. Ratcliffe nodded. Good luck, Ethan. Most people don't walk out of something like this clearer than they walked in. I offered to quiet you too before heading out. As I stepped outside, cold sunlight hit my face, clean and bright after days of gray. The air carried a faint bite, but it felt good. Honest. I zipped my coat, tucked my hands in my pockets, and started walking. There was no poetic swell in my chest, no dramatic sense of triumph. Just a steady peace. Life can spin sideways without warning. People can fool you, sometimes even the ones closest to you. But strength isn't about how loud you scream when it happens. It's about how quietly you rebuild after the silence. And that's exactly what I plan to do. One step at a time. And that was the end of my story. Amanda stole her sister's future and Rachel chose to destroy hers in return. Do you think Rachel did the right thing by exposing the truth the way she did, or was there another path she should have taken? Let me know in the comments. And if this story made you feel something, hit like and subscribe for more.